Oh, I think you're muted there, Andrew. Maybe us starting with 3 people in the box is causing some technical difficulties, but
My
I'll take
computer
over.
is so
There we go.
messed up right now. It's crazy.
We're
Yeah.
starting the show
It's
with a fumble in our own territory at the
My
20-yard line.
my computer's messed up.
it can't handle multitasking. It's absolutely insane. Regardless, what is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Huddle. Ninja here with Tony, here with Steve. Fellas, what is happening today? How we doing?
Always a good day when I can start it off talking to you gentlemen about sports, about the NFL in particular. Did you guys see Hard Knocks last night?
No.
I did,
Episode 1.
and I have several notes about the show. What about you,
Right.
Steve?
Man, I'm disappointed you guys were watching this and didn't invite me. We could have had like a big group watch session, could have fired up the group chat, a little texting back and forth, But instead, no, you guys just got to go watch the show. Leave me alone. Don't tell me nothing. And here I am.
Steve's having serious FOMO right now.
Actually, I'm not. Dude,
Yeah,
it's
big
funny.
time.
Like, I checked out on Hard Knocks a few years ago.
Tony, what were your thoughts?
I enjoyed it. Let me start with the negative. Like, I don't like a lot of the fluffy stuff, like the Simone Biles stuff. I had zero interest in. And, when the narrator's starting off with like, Chicago, the city of deep dish pizza, and like all that stuff that's like really entertaining and probably non-sports fans appreciate it. And I'm just like, give me some data. I'd like to get some information and learn something I didn't know about this team by the end of the show. So that's my take on it. And then I'll start off with the negatives. My big I have 2 big takeaways from it. One, I don't know if Caleb Williams is very likable, and I want to ask you guys how you feel about it, because I kind of cringe at times when he's speaking and being a leader. And I thought Eberflus came out of this looking really good. Like, my respect for that guy went up after this episode, honestly. It honestly did, because
How?
no, seriously, in press conferences, like all we see of this guy is like press conferences and maybe like a post-game speech, right? And he's always seemed to me like kind of sheepish, like lacking confidence, doesn't like, at least verbally and vocally, doesn't portray good leadership skills. And in that episode, I saw several examples of him being a good leader. He just seemed more competent than I thought he was.
Yeah,
maybe
agree.
The beard is tricking me. I don't know.
I agree fully, though, dude. Like, that was one of my biggest takeaways from episode 1 of Hard Knocks last night was, do I like Matt Eberflus now? Like, what has happened to me overnight? Like, we panned this guy last year. Some of the shortcomings that we've seen from him, be it with the playbook, be it in the room, on the sideline, whatever the case may be. And I know it's easy to get caught up in players and with teams, watching Hard Knocks. That's what it's designed to do.
Yeah.
But I'm all in with Eberflus. And to be honest, I'm all in with this Bears team full stop. Like, I love...
No. You guys can't do this one. You guys are both on the Bears under this season. There's no I'm all in with this Bears team.
Yeah, I don't mean to win the Super Bowl. I don't even mean to win the playoffs. I just think there's a vibe here. There's a culture with this team, and there's something brewing with this Bears team. I will say, Tony, I disagree. I came out liking Caleb Williams. I like the way he carried himself, the way that, he was interacting with the staff, with his fellow quarterbacks. There was something there, and I wasn't high on Caleb Williams coming out of USC last year and into the draft as the number 1 overall pick. But I am in. And here are some of my other notes here, Tony. So bear with me here.
Okay.
Cole Kmet, solid first pitch there at Wrigley Field for the before the Cubs game. Solid first pitch. The Caleb Williams hype, I will say, was absolutely insane. Quote, best Bears quarterback ever sound bites that were going around.
Comparing him to Jordan.
Was a little tough to listen to. And I know they're trying to create a story arc. I know they're trying to create a narrative. But I find that really unfair for a guy that hasn't even taken an NFL snap yet. So that was tough to listen to. And I will say that Saban hit the nail on the head when he was talking to Eberflus about that pressure on a young quarterback. Steve, you had your hand up there. Did you want to add something?
it's a low bar. Like we
It's
could almost step in. We
extremely
could
low
almost
bar.
step into the Bears quarterback room. Be a top 5 Bears quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
Right?
Was
Like-
it our last episode we were talking about the Broncos string of bad quarterbacks, and the Bears are maybe right up there with an
They've never had a
equally ugly list.
4,000-yard passer.
Yeah. Ugly.
4,000, not 5, 4.
Yeah.
Everyone throws for 4,000 yards.
Ugly.
But also, I think
the only team that has never had that, I think.
I think even if we don't know it's true, I think it's true.
Yeah, well,
But,
exactly. It's
you know what I
perfectly
mean?
believable.
But here's the thing, though, with Eberflus. If his name was Matt Smith or Matt Avery or Matt Farmer, cool. He's a good dude. He's a good coach. His name's Eberflus. How do you take a Matt Eberflus seriously? It's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hire Matt Eberflus to coach my football team, and we're going to win. Guess what? You're not. You got an Eberflus.
I came away liking that guy a lot more than I did. I mean that for
That's
sure.
surprising me.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Couple other
Surprising.
notes here. Love the old clips of him at Toledo as a
Yeah.
linebacker. Yeah. That was fun to see. Was it the first appearance, Tony, of a team barber in Hard Knocks history?
I tell you, I'm not a historian when it comes to Hard Knocks, but that was surprising. I guess I never realized teams had barbers. It makes sense when you have a roster that large. Like I get it, but that I was like, oh, NFL barbers. That's interesting.
I've got to ask though. Eberflus's wife had taken pictures of like Ryan Reynolds, I think, a couple other dudes for Matt to get his haircut. Tony, have you ever done that? Have you ever taken a photo of a haircut, a hairstyle into the barber and try and have them replicate that?
I haven't, but it instantly reminds me of a great I Think You Should Leave sketch with Tim Robinson on Netflix, where he's sitting at the bar on like a first date and he hair that's like coming down. And this guy at the end of the bar is like making fun of him. And he can overhear him making fun of him. And he's like, look at that guy with dog ears for hair over there. And the guy's like, wait, what? And it turns out they do a flip back to when he was in the barbershop. And he showed the guy from a magazine this exact thing, the picture that he wanted his hair to be like. And there was like a dog ad on the other page. And so it's so good. It's so good. So I've never personally done that, but it reminded me of that when you said it.
Just want to add this before we move on. Gav, you gotta admit here, what was the picture of? If
Gav's
you've
got
done
a nice
that,
mom.
we need to know what the hairstyle was. So drop that in the chat, please. Other notes here, Tony. I sort of liked the Jonathan Owens, Simone Biles relationship thing. I just think there was something very wholesome about that little angle and that little 5 minutes that we were privy to. So I kind of like that. The Theo Benedet scene actually made me laugh out loud. Absolutely immaculate vibes when he got up there in the thong to sing as a rookie. That was fantastic. Love Roma Dunze.
Not just got up in a thong, for people that didn't see it, ripped his pants off as he was singing a song about America and exposed an eagle on his thong. It was very unexpected. It was good.
Who's this?
Theo Benedet. He's actually Canadian. He played at UBC. He's an O lineman, late pick. Or no, I don't even think he was drafted. I can't remember. Never mind.
That's incredible.
Late pick if he was. O lineman. Got up there, sort of rookie initiation thing, and had to sing a song.
Yeah.
He got up there, and it was like, this sort of patriotic American song. But as he did it, like midway through the first verse, he rips off his pants, and he's got this thong on with an eagle head. Earned him the nickname the Canadian Eagle.
Yeah. And let me tell you, this is also an example of something that I think reflects well on Eberflus. Do you think Bill Belichick last year was having people get up and sing songs and would have been okay with people ripping their pants off? Like, I actually like this light environment. As long as it's not too light, let's make sure we get our work done too. But I like that these guys are bonding. They're being vulnerable in front of each other. It's really like team building 101. Create vulnerability and create that bond amongst your teammates. And so another thing for Eberflus that I like, I think he's building a good culture there.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So you said Nick Saban was there for this?
So Eberflus played under Saban at Toledo, like way back in the day.
Okay.
So he has that connection. So he invited Saban to camp. and Saban came in. He talked to the rest of the coaching staff, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Because there is a funny story with Nick Saban back when he was coaching the Dolphins. And they do like similar to that thing, like with the rookies and all this, yada, yada, and they perform and do this and do that and everything else. And Channing Crowder was there. And Crowder's told the story on his radio show and podcast. I mean, the guy's on a million platforms now. But it was his turn to go up and perform. And when he went up to perform, he took Nick Saban up and put Saban on stage and brought a stripper in for Nick Saban.
Unexpectedly.
Amazing.
And then Saban got up and stormed out, and Crowder was like, oh, well.
Nice.
Amazing.
Gotta love the pranks.
Couple other bullet points here I have from my notes as I was watching the first episode. I've been on here. Love Roma Dunze with Washington last year. Made a cameo. Love seeing that guy with the organization. Got a feel for Austin Reed and his family in that Hall of Fame game after the storm forced them to abandon that game and after he had just gotten into the game, sort of fourth on the QB depth chart. Yeah, man, overall, really good episode. As I said, love the vibes with this Bears team. I came out loving Eberflus, liking Caleb Williams a little bit more. And Tony, that scene with DJ Moore and that contract extension in the GM's office. What did they say? Like inking him because, you know, he's got like a family to support and all of these wholesome reasons to get this guy pinned down long term.
Because it's the right thing to do. Because it's the right thing to do. And
exactly.
He talked about, wow, there's this big weight off my shoulder now. That's one less thing to worry about. That was a quote from him. And I have to wonder, what was Brandon Aiyuk thinking if he was watching this episode? You know, guys in the league watch these episodes. If he's watching this saying, wow, this is exactly what I wanted my team to do for me. And they didn't. I wish my GM was Ryan Poles and was saying these same exact things about me. And by the way, I had a better season than him. So you got to wonder how Brandon Aiyuk is feeling watching that.
Yeah, that is certainly something that crossed my mind watching that scene. It was like, oh my God, like this is how you do it. This is how you break down that barrier between front office and player, is with these conversations, with saying the right things. And you're right, Poles, another dude that comes out of that episode looking like an absolute beauty. Immaculate vibes with the Bears. So Bears fans, I'm all in. I love it.
By the way, I didn't realize how young Poles was. I Googled it because, you know, you hear these GMs' names. If you're not a fan of the team, you don't always see them in front of the camera. And so I Googled it. And I think the guy was like 39 or 40 years old. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize how young he was.
I saw a feature on around the NFL draft. He's an easy guy to cheer for.
Yeah.
Easy guy to cheer for. But you mentioned Nick Saban's there, huh?
I mean, you know, it could have been
interesting. He's allegedly retired. He has one huge bogey on his career resume. He's never won a Super Bowl. He hasn't been able to do it in the NFL. Maybe he's there scouting the Bears on his own to see if that's the team he wants to come back to. And he can do the heel turn and say, Eberflus, I'm Nick Saban. I'm coaching the Bears next season when they flutter and go 6-11 this year.
Give Steve a tinfoil hat right now. Give him a tinfoil hat.
Nick Saban. Listen, you want to be the greatest coach, Nick Saban? Do it in the NFL. How about that?
He's getting up there in age now, man. He's getting up there in age. So we have this wholesome moment where Nick Saban is Matt Eberflus's mentor. He comes in to help. And Steve, you got to turn this into a dark conspiracy. Come on, man.
Hey, man, Shawn Michaels can send Marty Jannetty through the barbershop mirror. Anything can happen in life, okay?
Wow.
Wow. I think you were scarred watching that, man.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Definitely held on to
childhood trauma's coming out.
Yeah, should talk to a therapist about it.
I do want to talk about Brandon Aiyuk with you guys a little bit here. Obviously, Aiyuk in the news for a while now, but it's gotten a bit bigger here. You have some thoughts on this, Tony, but last night the Patriots have decided to sort of distance themselves from an Aiyuk trade. They were willing to offer around $30 million per season. So that leaves the Browns and the Steelers. Reports coming out that obviously Shanahan isn't impressed with the whole thing here. But what's your take with the latest on the Aiyuk situation here, guys?
Yeah, so just a quick recap. The latest is a day or two ago, it came out that the 49ers had deals in place with the Browns and Patriots. It was rumored to be Kendrick Bourne and some draft picks coming to the 49ers. for Aiyuk, or Amari Cooper and some draft picks coming over if it was the Browns. The Patriots have since dropped out. They're out of the running publicly. That's been reported. The Browns are apparently still in it. But now the Steelers, who were out of it at some point, are apparently back in it. And I have to wonder if this was like a leverage move by the 49ers to leak this information. Oh, the Steelers are out. We don't like their offer. It's down to these two now. And the Steelers were like, wait a second, we can increase our offer. That's just speculation on my part. But the smoke is now with the Steelers. In fact, if you saw Mike Tomlin's recent press conference, when he was asked about Brandon Aiyuk, he didn't deny it. He had a big old grin on his face and said to the media, I'll let you guys speculate about this. Look at that look on his face. That is the look on his face when the media asked him about Brandon Aiyuk. And as the caption of this tweet says, that's the face of a man who's fantasizing about Aiyuk lining up on the sideline for him.
But Tomlin also said something to the effect, like somebody asked him if he had any phone calls, and then his answer was, and I don't think it was about Aiyuk specifically, his answer was, it's pretty early in the West Coast, so maybe they aren't even awake yet. So I don't know, man. It's a tough one. Our wide receiver depth chart, as Niners fans here, Tony, is mega thin without this dude.
Yeah, if you lose a guy like that, it kind of causes a chain reaction on the rest of the depth chart, right? And he is your deep threat. Deebo Samuels isn't a guy that stretches the field. George Kittle really isn't even a guy that stretches the field. You could argue that Pearsall fits that skill set because of his speed and the kind of routes that he runs, but he's an unknown as a rookie. I mean, we've seen rookies come into the 49ers that you get your hopes up on, Jalen Hurd, Dante Pettis and stuff, and they don't shake out. So you can't really count on Pearsall for that. It would be a loss for the Niners, but there is so much other firepower on that team, names that I mentioned, Christian McCaffrey, of course, that this wouldn't be a death blow to the 49ers. I'm just curious, what are they getting back in return? Because as a 49er fan, you and I can say, hey, that's cool. They got 2 second-round picks, whatever it is, that's going to help with the future. But as someone that has futures bets already on the 49ers, you want an Amari Cooper in this deal. You want someone that's going to help them this year. So it's going to be fascinating to see what they get back for him in return. Did you guys see Christian McCaffrey maybe with a little slip up when asked on the NFL Network about whether or not? So this is the video here, and I know you guys can't hear it, but he slips up and he says, my former teammate, and then he corrects himself, my teammate. So it's almost like maybe a Freudian slip, and he's aware that he's no longer going to be playing with Brandon Aiyuk next year. Certainly seems the case.
But here's the thing.
Saw that one earlier. It's a tough one with that sort of interview. And CMC saying that almost leads me to believe there's one foot out the door. But Steve, as sort of, obviously a non-49ers fan, what is your take on this whole thing? And what do the Niners look like without Brandon Aiyuk in that wide receiver room?
Well, the Niners without him, it's George Kittle season incoming. This is when Kittle goes right back up to the monster that he is. But Aiyuk probably wants around $30 million a year. That's probably what he's asking for, given the numbers that are out there. If he thinks he's better than Waddle, or thinks he's better than Moore, and I think he's finding his value right now. This is where he learns what he's worth to the Niners, what he's worth to the Steelers, Browns, and whoever else comes in to try to take him. And if no one else wants him, this is what the Niners have right now because they have the Purdy contract, right? You pay the quarterback nothing. Here's your championship window, right? If Aiyuk leaves, you got the McCaffrey injury. There's a lot of bad juju going on, man.
Trent Williams is holding out.
Right? This is what it looks like when a championship contender falls apart. Ooh. Every little piece on the wall is loosened, and then all of a sudden someone smashes through. Ooh. And McCaffrey's not playing preseason. If Aiyuk goes, man,
Super Bowl hangover.
Yeah, Super Bowl hangover. Madden curse. We got a list of things going on here, right? But this is what it looks like when you're going to have to pay the quarterback.
Yeah, right? Fair point.
And I say have to, but
you think it's interesting that the two teams in on this, the Browns and Steelers, are division rivals? I think that works out in the 49ers' favor because they can say, hey, 100%. They just increased their offer. Do you want to beat this offer? So it'll be I think they're going to get a lot for him. I really do.
But the thing is, why would they want Amari Cooper at $20 million a year instead of just paying Aiyuk that money? Why would they want Kendrick Bourne as a receiver on their team when I think they already had him and let him go. Like, they know what he is. Like, these aren't pieces you get back for Brandon Aiyuk.
Well, I think Cooper makes a lot of sense. One, because they have a similar skill set. Those guys both averaged like 17 yards a catch last year. So that is someone that can stretch the field. But to your point, Cooper's only got 1 year left on his contract. And so you'll be done with him, and then you'll get a compensatory pick for him, and then you can pay Purdy. Whereas if you lock Aiyuk up for 4 or 5 years, it may stop you from paying Purdy down the road. So I think that would kind of be the benefit in that situation. Even though Aiyuk is the better player, I think something like that would work out well for the Niners. You get Cooper, you get a compensatory pick for Cooper because you lose him the next year, and you get a draft pick along with Cooper. And for this year, it's not that much of a drop-off from Aiyuk down to Amari.
It wouldn't surprise me if we see a 4-year deal for $112 million for Aiyuk from the Niners.
Do the math. Yeah.
Right now, it's NFL contracts, so it's all funny money, right? Like, none of them make any sense, and nothing's truly, really factually reported unless you want to dig into it. But that's what's out there for everyone. Those are the numbers.
I wonder what he turned down from New England. Supposedly I don't know if he officially turned down the trade, but New England got the feeling like he wasn't interested. So hold on, Brandon Aiyuk. You've been saying, go ahead, Andrew.
All I was going to say is what I saw in regards to the Pats is that he was the one that ultimately didn't want to go there, and perfectly reasonable. I mean, that team is headed nowhere fast. But I saw a report north of 30 mil, and then I saw a report right before we went live, 28.5 is the number that was on the table for him.
Yeah, and so to me, these numbers that we're hearing reported don't mean a lot because we don't know what the guaranteed money is. Sometimes we see these contracts that are inflated and they seem great on paper and they're not. But what I find fascinating is that Aiyuk is like, give me the money, give me the money, give me the money. The Patriots apparently showed him the money and he said no. So is he being a little bit of a Goldilocks here? Like, I want money and I want to be on a winner. It seems like he's kind of, asking for the moon right now. And, he had a great year. He's in position to do it, but I do have a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. I think he's being a little too picky.
It's funny. I love when players do this. The players have the power. They want to go play somewhere and they want to get paid. Good.
Oh,
good. Do it. Get all your money, get all your wins, get whatever it is that you want to get, because this is your only chance to do it. Get all of it.
I don't like it. As a fan of the team, I don't like it. I mean, I get it. Would I be doing the same thing in that situation? I get it, but it's still gross. It's gross.
I want to move on. Steve, I want you to come back. We're going to talk preseason a little bit at the bottom. Feel free to hop in whenever. But I want your take on the Dolphins preseason, your expectation of week 1 preseason, et cetera, at the bottom.
And just before I go, I do have some funny nuggets I found later in the show for you guys. And you guys will totally appreciate it because I know you're like nerdish like I am. But it's funny, and all I could do was smile this morning. It sent me down like a 45-minute rabbit hole from a few things. Nice. So I'll get to those later in the show.
Sweet.
That's why now we know why Steve doesn't get work done. He's going down like rabbit holes on the internet, pulling up stats and stuff. 45 minutes, he said. We got a show to produce here. But that's a perfect segue, Tone, into the Huddle panic meter. And what I want to do here is sort of break down a few situations with players and teams as we move into preseason proper and head straight into week 1 of the regular season. And I want you to rank, Tony, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not panicky to 10 being absolute disaster mode here. So we've ID'd some teams, some players. Let's stay in San Fran here. You talked about it. Christian McCaffrey, he won't be participating in preseason. He's got a calf strain. What's your take here on this situation with the Niners?
Panic meter, as a 49er fan, I'm going to give this one a 5.
Okay.
So I heard from our guy, Ryan Hogue. And if you guys aren't familiar with Ryan, he's former Mr. Irrelevant. He's played for several NFL teams. And, he's not a doctor, but I almost value his opinion as much, if not more than a doctor, because he's had these injuries. So I like to talk to him about injuries. And his quote was, man, that's not an easy one to recover from in terms of the exact injury that CMC has. So I don't like it. But let's remember, it's kind of a small miracle that CMC didn't get hurt last year. He had 417 touches. This is a guy with an extensive injury history, from his time back in Carolina as well. And so honestly, when I watch 49er games, every single time he gets tackled, I hold my breath. And I'm like, ooh, I hope he's not limping when he gets up. And so you don't like to see this. And I guess The other reason why it's a 5 for me and not a lower number, even though he's apparently going to be ready by week 1, is sometimes when you get these leg injuries, it can make you, even subconsciously, you don't realize it, overcompensate with other muscles, right? So because my calf is bothering me, I might start favoring my left calf now to overcompensate. And now all of a sudden I got an injury with the other leg. And so you certainly keep your fingers crossed and hope something like that doesn't happen for CMC, but they need him in San Francisco. So I'm going to give this a 5. He'll be ready by week 1, but let's hope it doesn't linger.
Dude, you just rekindled so many bad memories. The back half of last regular season, the playoffs, you're right, man. Anytime CMC got tackled, I was like just pausing a little bit, right? It's like, get up, get up, get up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a 5, that does not make me feel great going into preseason. Let's go to the Chargers now and Justin Herbert. He's got a plantar fascia injury. He's been taking snaps in a walking boot here, Tony, but what are your thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, he's supposed to be in the walking boot for 2 weeks. My go-to guy for injuries like this is Dr. David Chow. He's the former Chargers head team doctor, and he produced a YouTube video through Sports Information Central. He says, hey, I got no insider information, even though I do talk to these guys with the Chargers. I'd never ask them for information, but he is an expert on plantar fasciitis, which is this foot injury that Herbert has. And I want to read you some things that he says. He says he thinks this is an acute injury and not a chronic injury, which would be a good thing, not chronic plantar fasciitis. And he suggested that's the case because he was able to finish practice and then was diagnosed with it. So he'd be more concerned if it was chronic. So that seems like good news. But he also mentions in the video a really good point. And it's like, hey, this guy's going to be ready by week 1. Dr. Chow says people play through this injury all the time in the NFL. Sometimes they get injections. But the concern is this is a new offense. This is a new offensive coordinator. This is a new head coach. You've got a rookie rookie wide receiver as your number 1 wide receiver. You guys need to be taking snaps together. So my concern is for the early season momentum for the Chargers without having Herbert on the practice field. That gets a little concerning. Hey, how about survivor implications? Week 1, Chargers against the Raiders. Do you like the Chargers a little less now, knowing that Herbert hasn't been practicing with his team and he might not be as mobile week 1? So I'm going to give that one a 6, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not one to be trifled with. I want to talk a little bit about the Raiders here when we talk preseason, but moving on here, Puka Nacua of the Rams on a week-to-week sort of situation. I guess it's a bursa sac issue in his knee, Tony.
Yeah, typically this injury, if it is a PCL sprain, doesn't require surgery, but it can linger. I'm going to go back again to Dr. David Chow, who's a great source on this stuff. He's speculating it's a PCL sprain. Nobody knows for sure. We just know that it's an injury. But if it is a PCL sprain, he gave some great comparables. Zeke Elliott, week 4, 2021. I know that was a while ago, and I know that he's a running back, but he had that same injury, and he never really recovered. You could argue that Zeke Elliott hasn't been the same running back since then. And age probably has something to do with that as well. But Gabe Davis, Khalif Raymond last year at the very end of the season had these injuries as well. And they can absolutely linger. So you've got some depth, with the Rams. You've got Cooper Kupp as your top wideout. So you'll be okay without him. But if you want to make a Super Bowl run, you're going to need Puka Nacua. So I'm going to actually give this one a 7 for the potential that this injury could linger, according to David Chow.
Hit that thumbs up button and drop your episode 1 Hard Knocks rating out of 10 in the chat as well. Let's look at Cleveland here. Zadarius Smith banged knees with Jerome Ford in practice. He was actually carted off and, quote, in some pain, according to reporters, Tony.
Yeah, this one's a 1. He's going to be okay. They're saying it was a knee contusion. Like you said, it looked really ugly at first with being carted off and several beat writers saying he looked like he was in a lot of pain. But this is one where it looks like the Browns dodged a bullet. He's probably just going to miss a couple practices, and it seems like he's going to be ready for week 1.
As you can see there, let's move over.
I'm sure he's getting some crap in the locker room for being in such pain for a knee bruise, by the way. But he's going to be okay.
Probably is, to be honest. Let's wrap up with the Titans. DeAndre Hopkins out several weeks with a knee injury, currently eyeing a week 1 return. But where do you rate this one with the panic meter, Tony?
This one's like a 5.5 out of 10, maybe a 6. They're saying he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. Week 1 is now questionable. But who are the other wide receivers in that wide receiver room? You got Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, and Treylon Burks. So Ridley, I think, is a pretty decent number 2 receiver. He's not a number 1 receiver, in my opinion. Tyler Boyd is a decent number 3 or even number 2 receiver. I don't think he's a number 1 receiver in that offense. So there is kind of like I talked about with Aiyuk, when you lose a number 1 receiver, there's a domino effect on the rest of this depth chart. And I think Tennessee is going to miss them. And don't forget, Tennessee is a team that has historically run the ball a lot more with Derrick Henry. This is going to be a brand new Tennessee Titans team with Brian Callahan, where they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, 3 wide receiver sets. So missing Hopkins, even for a game or 2, is a pretty big deal. So I'm going to give that a 5.5.
I want to talk as part of betting the NFL, and I want your thoughts on what the outlook is for kicking, like with the rule changes coming into play here. But first, Tony, kicking situations around the league. Let's start off with Jacksonville. What are you seeing there?
Oh, man, this is a scary one. Cam Little is their kicker. I had to look over my notes because I forgot his name. That's how insignificant he is. Never made a kick in the NFL. He's not even old enough to drink. This guy's 20 years old. You pull up a picture of him, he looks very wholesome and young. He looks like Macaulay Culkin from the original Home Alone movie. I don't know if I feel good betting on the Jaguars until I know that this guy can make kicks. And Steve's a Dolphins fan, so maybe this is good news for the Dolphins week 1. But he's a 6th-round pick out of Arkansas, and the Jaguars cut Riley Patterson for him. Not a terrible guy that they cut. And so they apparently like what they see in practice, but I don't think I'm going to be trusting my money on a money line bet on the Jaguars until that guy can connect on a few kicks.
We're doing kickers on August, what's it, 8th? August 7th, we're breaking down kickers. I love it, Tony. Look at you. You hate Simone Biles. You hate deep dish pizza. You hate fun. But you love talking about kickers. You were really in the cave all week with this cloak on, right? The Obi-Wan
Kenobi hold on. I don't
and
hate Simone Biles. I just don't want to be hearing about her when I'm trying to watch something about football. She's an
all American icon.
Yeah, hero. But I don't want her on my TV when I'm trying to learn about the Bears.
She's a real American. Just enjoy fun. Enjoy storytelling.
Kickers are fun, Steve. This is fun. Come on.
No, Ninja, you know what it is? Tony hates love. He hates a real American love story.
That's why I hate Kelly Stafford too. Kelly and Matthew Stafford, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's why you hate Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift too.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
There's definitely a pattern here for sure.
Go back to your kicker conversation.
Over to Detroit now, and Jake Bates, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Bates is in there because Michael Badgley's out for the year, so that's a tough blow for the Lions. This is the guy, if you remember, Andrew. Do you remember the viral kick of the 64-yard field goal in the UFL game? That was like all over the internet. That's where they got this guy from, the UFL. He's never made a kick in the NFL. Lions, one of the best offenses in the NFL. A lot of people are probably going to draft this guy for their fantasy team because it's such a high-powered offense. But again, I'm going to be weary until I see this guy connect on some deep NFL kicks. I guess the fact that he's playing indoors in Detroit helps, but I don't trust NFL kickers until they show me they can withstand the pressure of an NFL environment, because it's totally different than college and the UFL.
And what's going on with the Rams situation?
They got a competition between Tanner Brown and Joshua Carty. Carty's the rookie, 6th-round rookie, and it's looking like he's going to be the guy. He hit on 23 of 27 field goals for Stanford last year, so he did it in college, but I'm going to be a broken record and say it again. I'm not trusting the Rams until this guy can show me that he can get it done. Interesting, these last 2 teams I've mentioned, they play each other week 1, Rams and Lions Sunday night.
Talked about rookie kickers a couple times here already, always sort of under the microscope and should definitely be factored in when it comes to betting. Will Reichert will be kicking for the Vikes. His Alabama resume is awfully impressive. Most points in NCAA, most field goals in Alabama history. Had 100% field goal season under his belt. Your thoughts here, Tony?
Yeah, of all the rookie kickers, I think you got to like him best because of that pedigree that you said. He's obviously played in a lot of high-pressure situations in Alabama, in football stadiums that were full. So a little less concerned about him. But, hey, there's a little extra pressure on the line when you're collecting an NFL paycheck and when you're making life-changing money. So I still want to see it from Will before I trust the Vikings, say week 1 against the Giants.
Let's wrap up with New England. 2 all-time names, Joey Sly, Chad Ryland, competing for a job here.
Yeah, Sly, he's had so many seasons like where his field goal percentage was low. Last year it was 79.2%. He missed 3 extra points. And then Ryland had like literally 64% field goal percentage last year. I don't remember a kicker ever having that bad of a season without getting cut. So 2 bad options for England and a bad roster. So certainly want to stay away from whichever kicker gets the job in New England for fantasy purposes.
64%, very much like Steve's high school report card. Talk to me about kick.
Are we finally done with kickers? Like, are we done with kickers for today, or do we have more kickers? Oh, we got more?
Yet.
Okay. You know, I'll sit around for this. I'll take some notes so I can get my 64 report card up to a 69.
Well, talk to me, Tony.
Nice.
Talk to me about kicking at 2-part question. Talk to me about kicking as a part of handicapping. How important is it when it comes to sports betting? And is kicking not taken seriously enough when people are handicapping the board?
Yeah, I think it's a really underrated part of handicapping, and it's tough to handicap a kicker. Like I said, there's just a lot of uncertainties. So it's tough to say, oh, this kicker is going to make, 2.5 field goals today. But it's more about taking it easy and not making a bet when there's a bunch of uncertainties out on the table, as there is with these guys. So yeah, I think it's an underrated part of it. How many games last season, over the last couple of years, have we seen end on game-winning field goals or missed game-winning field goals? Remember Jake Moody for the 49ers last year? It's at week 6 or 7, very makeable field goal, under 50 yards, missed kick. So you and I will constantly come on this show every Wednesday and talk about, oh my God, that kicker missed that field goal to end the game. Or, the Ravens kicker, gosh, why is his name escaping me right now?
Tucker.
Best kicker in the league. Justin Tucker. Thanks. That was a brain fart for me. He hits game-winning field goals, 60 yards plus. This is a big deal when we're seeing games and money line bets being decided by these kickers, but it's very rare that you hear kickers talked about on sports betting shows, and I think it should be discussed more often.
Tony, you should hang your head in shame.
Because I couldn't remember Justin Tucker.
You're talking about all these random kickers that no one knows or cares about. You've been away studying.
Isn't that the way that it works? I got Joey Sly and Chad Ryland down and forget Justin Tucker.
That's amazing. You should be ashamed of yourself.
What do you think here, Tony, about the 2024 rule changes? Like, do we see a higher volume of field goal attempts in 2024? Like, what does that forecast look like?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little more scoring, and it's not going to be like crazy noticeable. Like, I think the average fan won't notice it. But if you take the number of field goals that were made last year, I wouldn't be surprised to see another, 20, 25, 30 field goals made on top of that. So, there's going to be more opportunities here, I think, and I could be wrong on that, but I think there's going to be more opportunities for these field goal kickers, and more opportunities means more opportunities to miss as well. So, again, be careful with these rookie kickers. Yeah. We saw 2 rookie kickers hurt their teams big time last year. Some would argue the 49ers would have won the Super Bowl if Jake Moody hadn't have missed an extra point. And I know he hit a deep one over 50 yards in the Super Bowl. I was there, first person to see it. But if he made that extra point, theoretically there would have been no overtime. And you could argue the 49ers lost that Super Bowl because of their kicker. So keep an eye on it. It's a big deal.
They also lost because the referees wouldn't call holding against Kansas City.
Don't get me started. They never did.
Don't even get me.
And Drake Greenlaw getting hurt. There's a lot of reasons.
Okay,
in my life.
Steve just comes on here to open up a wound, stirring the pot.
Here, actually, okay. So I gave you a little wound. I'm going to give you a laugh. I just got an email from my bank saying I have a meeting with them tomorrow afternoon, which I clearly don't. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? And then I realized that a buddy of mine works at the bank. And I was like, so I just sent him a text. I was like, did you book a meeting with me? And he's like, yeah, 3:00 tea time tomorrow. I have to get out of it. So
Nice. Hopefully his boss doesn't watch this show. You might have just got him in trouble.
Oh, that'd be great. Then he'd know me around. It's just who books? It's just a fake meeting at 3:00 that I'm not going to be there for. I don't know how he's going to get away with it though.
Hey man, it's in the calendar. It's a meeting.
That's slick.
That is official.
We're gonna
That's
start booking
it.
some afternoon meetings, Ninja, me and you.
It's going to be in the cards here, especially before summer lets up. But that's it for the kicking front here. We actually have a meeting at the top of the hour, a real meeting. But we do have a full slate of preseason games this week, guys, beginning tomorrow, Thursday. Carolina at New England. Pat, 6.5-point faves in that one. And then we've got Lions at Giants. Giants minus 3.5 in that one. But then a full slate until Sunday. Tony, I'll start with you. Any games you're eyeballing here this weekend?
Yeah, I want to see how these rookie quarterbacks, the ones who are actually going to play, I want to see how they perform in these preseason games. You know, this time of year, I'm all about NFL survivor pools, and there's a lot of teams, Washington, for instance, Denver, for instance, who you're like, I could make a case that they're going to be really bad if the quarterback is bad. And they could be one of the worst teams in the league. Drake May with the Patriots, if he gets to start. Or if those quarterbacks are CJ Stroud, for instance, and I know those are rare, they could actually maybe be an average team. So that's a really big deal in terms of handicapping. So I want to see how these quarterbacks look in the preseason. And listen, I get it. I know the preseason is watered down and it's vanilla and it's not the entire offense. But what I'm looking for, it's not statistics. I want to see how comfortable these guys look. Like, are they getting happy feet? Are they going through their progressions? Are they running first instead of going through their progressions? Do they look panicked? That's what I'm looking forward to. So Panthers and Patriots tomorrow, that's a big one. Bryce Young isn't going to play in this one for Carolina. That's a little bit of a bummer because I'm curious to see how he looks as well. By the way, they're saying he might not play in the preseason at all in any games. That's interesting. But I want to see how Drake May looks against the Panthers in his first preseason game. The other one, this is probably the one I'm most excited about, Jaden Daniels against the Jets. Heisman Trophy winner. Let's see what you got. Because, again, I think that there's a wide range of outcomes, a big variance in terms of how Washington can do this season. And it's all going to be on that guy's back in front of a not so good offensive line. So let me see what you got against the Jets, Jaden Daniels. And then I want to see if there's progress from how he improves from that first game to the second game to the third.
Two other teams, Tony, I want to add, because I have the same thing in my notes here, but I think the situation in Minnesota, especially in these preseason football games, is going to be very interesting. And then how about this one? How about the Atlanta Falcons? What if Michael Penix starts to just put together some excellent drives, some excellent quarters with the Atlanta Falcons? That's the number 8 overall draft pick, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's not going to be a threat to Kirk Cousins week 1, but if Cousins struggles, and let's remember, Cousins is coming off of a major injury, and he's in his mid-30s, so it could plant a seed. Penix could plant a seed if Atlanta struggles and doesn't get off to a hot start.
Penix is going to sit for 2 years. There's too much money. There's too much money in Kirk Cousins right now. And I know, like, drafting him, whatever, that whole situation, but there's too much invested in Kirk Cousins right now for Penix to start.
You say that now, but if the Falcons start off 1-5 and Penix lights up the preseason, the fans are going to be clamoring. The pressure is going to be cooking.
The Lions went 4-0 in the preseason, then went 0-16.
If the Falcons start 1-5, we are having Ian McMillan back on this show as a sort of just a check-in, just a mental wellness check-in, because he just might be through it all. One other rookie, Tony, because there's some hype coming out of this team, the Raiders and Brock Bowers. There is some hype coming out about this dude out of camp. So the Raiders could be another one to look for. And then I want to see Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, absolutely. With Arizona for sure. That's a good one. Bo Nix with Denver. That's probably second on my list behind the Jaden Daniels one. Let's see how Bo Nix does. They're playing the Colts on Sunday. That's going to be a nationally televised game, by the way, on the NFL Network. And again, Sean Payton's putting all his eggs in the Bo Nix basket. Let's see it. Let's see what it looks like.
But did you see what crusty old man Sean Payton did, though? He listed Bo Nix like second or third on the depth chart, whatever it is.
Yeah, they do that. I'd be shocked.
Or something.
It's just Sean Payton being an old crusty curmudgeon of a coach.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a motivational tactic.
Oh,
you got to earn it, rookie. You got to earn it. That's
enough of Sean Payton. Okay, Sean Payton has to earn it. He's gotten so much juice off that one Super Bowl. It's like, come on, man.
Steve, we've got your Miami Dolphins hosting Michael Penix and those Atlanta Falcons this week. What are you looking for from that game? What are your thoughts going in to week 1 of the preseason as a Dolphins fan?
Just stay healthy. Like last year, Jalen Waddle got hurt in the preseason, and he was never the same all season long. That clearly affected him. He had a high ankle sprain. He just wasn't Jalen Waddle. So keep everybody healthy. I'm going to sound like Mitch here for a minute. Mitch from Mitch and Ethan's baseball show. What's the show called they have, Ninja?
Well, last week you told me it was the Ethan Baseball Podcast.
With Mitch?
With special guest Mitch. No, that's 3 True Outcomes, Mondays and Thursdays, 12:30 Eastern, right here on YouTube and on X and on Twitch. But continue.
Okay. So when Mitch was on, he was talking about some like 7th round offensive lineman the Ravens drafted, whatever.
Yeah.
So ironically enough, Miami's defensive line is just in shambles kind of thing, right? With Phillips and Chubb out until probably November. So there's a 7th round pick that the Raiders drafted from the football factory of Prairie View A&M, the Panthers, pause up Panthers. His name's Quentin Bell. He's a defensive lineman, and from all the reports I've seen, he's been a top 5, top 10 player so far in camp. Like this guy kind of came out of nowhere and just basically won himself a job.
Wow.
So I'm curious about him. I like the fact they re-signed Ogba. He was good before the crusty curmudgeon Fangio was there as well. Had to get rid of him. But I want to see what this defense looks like with Anthony Weaver as their defensive coordinator. Obviously, we're not going to see much at all. Couple holes on the offensive line that they're going to have to fill. But, I mean, I don't know if this is the game to really find a lot out. Right? Ethan Bonner, another guy, he's a cornerback, undrafted. He's basically shot up the depth chart as he's basically won himself a job pretty much already. Just a matter of if it's a 3rd or 4th or whatever. So, yeah, we'll see. Just stay healthy, get out of the game, and then, get week 1 here. And I want to see Jason Sanders. I've got to see how the kicker's doing the preseason.
That's a proven commodity. He'll be all right.
Well, any doubt about his spot in the team.
He was
last thing
last year.
Last thing before we sign off here. Shout out to the Chicago White Sox. They matched the longest losing streak since the 1988 Baltimore Orioles with 21 straight losses, but snapped that last night with a 5-1 win over the formidable Oakland A's, courtesy, among other things, an Andrew Benintendi 2-run homer. The 21-gamer is the longest in American League history here, guys.
That's brutal. I think you got to ask where they rank in terms of the Major League Baseball's all-time worst teams. In my lifetime, I remember a Tigers team. I remember a Tigers team.
There you go.
I don't know how long ago that was, but they were really, really bad. And it's kind of reminding me of that vibe. Look at that. Look, going way back. We got an 1886 Kansas City Cowboys on this list.
So this is by win percent, and you see their number 7 is currently this year's version of the Chicago White Sox.
Wow.
Ugh.
Wow. Look at those 1,800 polls. Oh, my goodness.
The
Louisville
Cleveland
Colonels.
Spiders, the Pittsburgh Alleghenies. Run that graphic again real quick. I just nerd out on old baseball shit.
Yeah. So this was part of my little rabbit hole I got stuck on this morning. So the Pittsburgh Alleghenies. First of all, do you know what an Allegheny is?
Well, it's the river in Pittsburgh.
Besides a river. Yeah, I don't know.
God damn, you guys are smart. I hate that. I thought I was genius. I didn't know what an Allegheny was, so I Googled it, and it's like, but not only is it the river, it's the river that connects Pennsylvania into the Ohio River. There's like a northwest, southwest, all these things go around. I thought I was so smart when I found that one out.
What are the odds that Andrew comes on the next show with a Cleveland Spiders hat next week?
Dude, his hat collection is insane. But
don't rule it out, man. I'm just gonna hit up eBay real quick while we're live.
Here's the interest. Here's something else you might like. That year for Pittsburgh, 1890, was the last year they were known as the Pittsburgh Alleghenies.
Really?
Yes, and
did they go right to the Pirates, or was there something else in between?
Here's why. So that offseason, Pittsburgh signed second baseman Lewis. I'm sure it's probably Lewis back in the 1890s. Bierbauer. He spent the previous 4 seasons with the Philadelphia Athletics. The A's then accused Pittsburgh of pirating Bierbauer away from them. Pittsburgh then changed their name to the Pirates.
No
and
way.
had stuck
As a
with it
troll?
as the first recorded troll job in American history.
That is so epic.
How about that?
That's a brilliant little factoid. Love that.
That's good.
That just made my whole goddamn day. Tying that into why they are called the Pirates, which is, I mean, the Pirates have an iconic hat, an iconic logo, uniform set, all that kind of stuff. But you never really think, oh, well, why are they called the Pirates? And now we know.
Bam.
You know what? But wait, there's more.
Oh.
The Pittsburgh Steelers were initially called the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Really?
Yep. And then from 1933 to so I found this information from abc27.com. It's an article that Matt Benedetto wrote, and it's awesome. So the Steelers were called the Pirates, but from 1933 to 1939, they went through 5 head coaches, and they were absolute dog shit, and Art Rooney voted to change the name. And they had a fan vote, and the Steelers won. But there's more.
So the Steelers name was decided by fans way back when.
Yep. But
wow, this was not an internet poll, obviously. So this was like a write-in ballot poll, apparently.
I wonder how that ballot would have gone. How would they tell people just walk around this 1939?
Wow.
So here's the thing. Art Rooney then sold the team to Alexis Thompson from Boston, and he renamed the team the Pittsburgh Ironmen in 1941. And then there was like a lot of weird stuff going on. So it was like the Steelers and the Eagles were basically 2 franchises that became one franchise. And I kid you not, in 1943, the Steagles went 5-4-1. They combined the Steelers and Eagles name into the Steagles.
Wow.
There's more.
Just when you thought the Washington football team was ridiculous, I think the Steagles might have that beat.
I think they initially called themselves a football. No, that was a baseball team. But anyways, so later on, as the story goes, the Chicago Cardinals and the Steelers then had to combine names because the other 2 franchises split. So the Steelers and the Cardinals became the Car Pits, Pits. They then went 0-10 that season. And then in 1945, the Pittsburgh Steelers changed their name back to the Steelers and have not changed it since. Boom.
Wow. The more you know. This is why you come to the huddle. This is why you come to the huddle.
All because of the Alleghenies and the White Sox are ass.
And if anybody's wondering why Steve hasn't gotten any work done this week, research.
All I could think about when you're talking about the Steagles, do you remember Milt Steagall from the CFL?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Milt Steagall connection? Anyone? That's
fascinating. Like his face is the logo.
Yeah. I love that. I love that Pittsburgh Pirates bit of trivia. That's good stuff.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
But again, that is the precise reason why you come to the huddle and why you should come next Wednesday, a week from today.
Phrasing.
All things kicker and special teams based heading into week 2 of the NFL preseason. For Tony and for Steve, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. If you are on podcast, we'll be back next week right here on the Huddle.